Welcome to toy-polloi, parental guidance. This video contains scenes of Lego destruction.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi, and in today's video we're going to see what we can make out of this broken pile of Masters of the Universe figures. In fact, all of these figures are what I would call ore figures, because we have Mosquito, we have Dragstor and we have Spikor. All of the ores. They are all in a pretty terrible state and all need a lot of work. So let's take a closer look at what we've got to do, and then we'll see if we can actually get them fixed up. The first of the ores is Dragstor. Now I've had this figure in my sort of repair box for a very long time because, as you can see, it's missing the engine block on the back, and I didn't think I would ever find an engine block to swap out. But at a recent toy fair I met up with Joe from Time Tunnel Toys, and on his stall he happened to have this, which was the smashed up remains of a Dragstor. I don't think it's all there, it's got a few pieces missing, and he very kindly said I could just take the bag of bits, and I grabbed it immediately because, as you can see, it has the engine block on the back. So we are going to try and swap those two bits out. I can see this figure suffers with a problem that we've got on Spikor as well, and that is that the plastic has gone very brittle. This one here has completely shattered, and I have a feeling that the plastic on this one has already gone quite dark. This is going to be pretty brittle as well, so that could be interesting, trying to get this out of here and stuck back on there. So that is the first of the projects, getting Dragstor fixed up. He will need a very good clean. He's absolutely filthy, and he seems to have some sort of plastic residue or crayon or something on his arms there. We've got to pick all of that off. So yeah, he is the first of the projects. The next ore is Mosquito. Now this guy actually isn't in too bad condition, although he does have a few bits of damage. He is missing the end of his little nose spike there. He's also missing the sort of prongs on the front of his feet, so I need to rebuild those. He does need a good clean, but the good thing about this Mosquito is that his chest still works. If I pump the button on the back of him, you can see the blood does pump round. So that is why I want to get this guy fixed up. We're going to have to fashion a new sort of nose piece for him and also build those little bits up on his feet. So he doesn't have a huge amount that needs doing. I think we possibly need to do his legs as well, because the band feels very loose, but I reckon we can get him looking pretty nice. Now none of these I want to get absolutely perfect, so I'm going to leave some of the paint scuffs on them. I just want them in a displayable state, because none of these three figures I have in my collection currently, so they just need to be displayable, not absolutely mint. So yeah, it's going to be quite fun to get him working, because I do like that squirty blood action that he has there. And then finally we have Spikor. Now this initially looked like the easiest one, but I don't think it is going to be. This guy here, his legs have fallen off, so it would just be a case of reattaching his legs, but on closer inspection it looks like the back of some of the spikes on his head have been cut off, and also the spikes on the back of his body have been cut off. So I have this other one here which has a really nice head. There's no damage to that at all, and it's also got really good spikes on his body. But you can see from this one that again the plastic has gone very brittle, so it's going to be quite easy to remove his body armor and swap that out, but swapping the heads on this could be very, very tricky. It may be the plastic on this has gone brittle as well. These figures have the extra little sort of peg inside the heads as well, so you can see the peg here is put inside the head to make it hard to get the heads off the body, because you can't squeeze this bit. Without the peg in, you can squeeze this and it would be very easy to remove the head, but with this peg in place, once that's like that, it makes it very hard to remove the heads. And I do want to remove the head on this one, but that's the worry. Do I do it, and does it break the plastic, and do I end up with another figure that looks like this? There's only going to be one way to find out, and that will be trying it, so we will try that later in the video. But as I said, all of these figures are filthy. Dragstor is the worst, so let's go and give these a good clean. I'm going to use hot soapy water and a toothbrush to get into all of the nooks and crannies and get off all of the dirt possible. I'm not going to submerge any of these because they've all got metal pieces inside. Dragstor has a metal wheel like this, and all of the others have springs and things like that. So we are going to be cleaning them without submerging them. So let's get them all cleaned up, and then we can start the rebuilding and repair work. Dragstor I hope will be the easiest of these repairs because we're essentially just replacing one part. The plastic on him has gone incredibly brittle. It's exactly the same as on Spikor. The plastic just, as it ages, gets very, very brittle, so I can just easily snap pieces off. You can see it's so easy to break. So this back section has already started to come away. It's just held in by one little pin there, which you can see the end of the pins on the back of this one. So I'm hoping if I just get my plastic nippers out, I can sort of cut away that part. I'm intending to try and keep that one pin, so I can just drill out this one and insert it in, and we just have to use a bit of paper clip to repair the other one. But it may be that both snap off and I have to replace both pieces with a paper clip, but we'll only find out as we start cutting. So I've got my plastic nippers here, and I'm just going to try and work around the remnants of that sort of holding post there and see what happens. So yeah, let's just go for it. Okay, well that actually came out pretty easily, so I've now got the remains of that post there, and I'll see if I can break the rest of that off. The plastic is incredibly brittle. It normally affects gold plastic, anything with a sort of a metallic flake in it, but this stuff has the same issue. In fact, if I bring in Spikor, you can see he has exactly the same issue as well, so we just have to be very careful with these. But yeah, let's try this again, see if I can get the rest of this off. Oops, yeah, that was a good bit. It's pinging around my room. Every time I cut this, a bit of it flies off somewhere. And there we go, that's most of it off. I can just sand down that little bit there, but that is what we need. So that's the rear engine block and the sort of little exhausts. And we can then insert that back onto here. But as you can see, I need to drill out that hole. So I'm just going to get my drill and we'll file that down. And I'm going to drill a very small hole into the remains of this post here. And I will drill a very small hole into the remains of that there. And we'll insert a piece of paper clip and that will be the support on that. But yeah, it's actually come off pretty easily. So just a little bit of tidying up and drill a few holes and we'll get this one stuck on. That little piece of paper clip is now well and truly glued in place, and we can actually put this figure back together. I was thinking about gluing everything in, but it holds in so well. I'm just going to push this into place. Then if I ever need to change this in future, I can. So I just got to push that little engine block onto the back there, and that should hold everything pretty much as it was originally. Yeah, that's not going anywhere. It's not going to fall off. And there we have Dragstor sort of back up and running. But there is one final little thing I want to do. He's a very worn figure because essentially this toy is designed to sort of roll along the floor on his face. So we've got little bits of wear all over the front here. I'm not going to sort of repair all of the paintwork, but the silver really does stand out. So I'm just going to do some minor touch-ups to that, just using a silver Sharpie. And this works incredibly well for little things like this. So you can see there's a little mark on his face there. I can just very quickly sort of draw over that and it disappears enough that when this is on display you won't notice these little sort of scratch marks. I'll do the same to the bits of pipe that he's got on the front there, just to sort of tidy him up that little bit. I don't want to go sort of full on with repairing this figure, just enough to make him look sort of nice and displayable. You may need a few coats of this, especially on the sort of darker areas, but on places like his legs you can see you can just sort of quickly run over that. And it disappears straight away. It makes him look that little bit better. Mosquito has 3 areas of damage, and we can use the same way to repair all of them. You can see that the front part of his nose is missing, the little spike there. There should be a second one of these just out there. It looks like it's been chewed off. We are also missing the ends of his toes. You can see that those are missing. There should be a little sort of square piece pointed out the front. So yeah, to repair those, we are going to be using Lego and Milliput, which is a 2-part model in clay. The Lego piece we're going to use is this, which is a whip antenna. These are incredibly useful, and I use them in all sorts of fixes. What we're going to do is trim off the ends of these and try and make them as neat and flat as possible. I will then drill a hole into that, and we'll insert a piece of this whip antenna, and we can then model on top of it with the Milliput. You can't just model with the Milliput, it's not strong enough. You need something to support it, so that's where this Lego piece comes in, and we're going to be doing exactly the same on his toes as well. I will trim those down, make them nice and flat, drill a hole in to insert a piece of this, and then we can model on top of it. I've shown this multiple times before on all sorts of repairs and fixes, and with Masters of the Universe I've most recently done this on a Clamp Champ figure where he was missing a big chunk of his foot, so check that video out. I will put a link to that in the description. But let's get on with this. So first thing to do is sort of trim the ends of these down. Because they've been chewed, they're not particularly neat or tidy, so I'm going to trim these down, make a nice flat edge. Same on his toes. In fact, on his toes I think I'm just going to trim off all of the missing toe piece so that we're starting with a completely flat surface. Then I will drill some holes, insert this piece of Lego, and then get to work with the Milliput. So let's get going. So there we go, that is a rough sculpting that I've done there. This is really rough at this stage because we come back to it a few times over the next 24 hours. In 2 hours this will have hardened enough that I can start shaping this a bit better, and in 24 hours it will be rock solid and I can get the files out and put the sort of square edges on his toes. But at this stage I just want a sort of rough outline of what I'm trying to go for, and you can see there that his nose is looking pretty good, and his toes, although a bit round, are actually sort of the right sort of size and shape. So once we've sharpened those off, they will look the part. So yeah, let's leave this for a couple of hours and we'll come back to it. And while we're waiting for this to set, we can work on the next figure. Here we have Spikor, and Spikor is notoriously brittle. The green plastic used on his body gets very brittle with age, and you'll more often than not find them shattered like this one. So it's quite unusual to find one like this which isn't broken. But as I showed you at the start, the head on this one and the body armour, there are bits missing on the spikes. In fact, there's 3 or 4 spikes completely cut off on the back there and some damage to the ones on his body. So I would like to swap them for the ones on this one, because the body spikes are in really good condition and the head is also in really good condition. But the problem is getting the head out. So that is going to be the challenge, because it could be that if I try and remove the head on this one, we split the plastic and end up with another broken figure, which is not something I want to do. So the first thing to do is to take the body armour off, and it's actually pretty easy to do. This is a very rubbery material and it's just hooked into these little holes all around the body, so you can actually just sort of peel it off and pull those rubbery pieces out of the little slots, and that's the armour removed, and that's what the body looks like underneath. Now I'm hoping these holes actually give me a little bit of access inside the body. If I put the head back on this broken one, we can just about see where this post is that's inside the head, and this is the post that is designed to stop the head being removed and may cause us issues. So what I'm hoping is that we can get access to that via that little hole there, and I can use a screwdriver and go in and gently sort of pull that post down on this figure, and that might help us remove the head without breaking the body. That's the plan anyway. I can see I can get the screwdriver in. Can I get it in up there? Just about. We're going to give it a try anyway. So let's remove the armour on this one. That's the armour I want to use, so let's put that to one side, and we can just remove the armour on this one just by pulling it out of these little slots. Sometimes a screwdriver is useful because you can just get under the first piece here. And there you go, it starts to peel away quite easily. So let's unpeel all of this one. All around his body and round to the back. There we go, that's the spikes off, like so. And now I'm hoping I can see in there and see the plastic post that's in his head, and hopefully I can get access to it with this and move it down a bit. Oh, do you know what? I think it was that easy. I can feel it moving. Yeah, let me just do this off camera a bit. Double check that I've actually moved it. Oh no, I can see it's moved. So that might mean that we can get this head off. I now need to do this very slowly, so I may go quiet because I'm really worried about breaking the rest of this plastic. It may be even that I should warm this head up in some boiled water. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I'm going to go and boil the kettle. I'll submerge this head in just boiled water to soften it a bit, see if we can get that out. So that turned out to be a whole lot easier than I'd expected. Removing a little bit of that peg beforehand, so just pulling it down through the hole in the back and warming the head up, it really did just come off very easily. And I've put this replacement head back on, but before I did that I actually took the post out, so I just sort of cut this up just using some plastic nippers and then removed it so that we don't have to put the head back over that post. If this was going to be played with by a child, then yeah, you would want that post in, because that is designed to make the head hard to come off. But this is only going to be for display, and it's also a very fragile figure anyway. I'm not going to bother putting that post back in. So now we can put his spikes back on. Here are his spikes, which fit around this way, and you basically just reverse the process. We've got to push in all of these little tabs inside the body, and I'm just going to use a small screwdriver to do that. It should be fairly straightforward to do. Just sort of push them in individually and work your way back around the body until you've got them all back where it should be. Yeah, and then that will be the spikes back on. I think it's going to take a little while to do just because there's so many of them, but it's not an impossible job, just a slow job. All I've got to do now is to reattach these legs. So I've got myself some replacement he bands, and I'm just going to pop the legs back on. I've shown this countless times on the channel, so just go and check out one of my previous videos to see the full process, but it really only takes a few minutes per figure these days. So yeah, let's get these legs back on, and then this figure's all done. And there we go, that is Spikor all back together. His legs are now back on. We've replaced his armour with the damaged spikes. We've swapped his head, which was actually easier than I was expecting it to be. And yeah, he's now all back together. There is a little bit of wear on the paint on this. Certainly the chrome on his trident here has got a bit of wear on it. But for me, that doesn't matter. I've got paints that would fix that, but actually I'm going to leave it as is. I like a little bit of wear on this character. He's a nicely play-worn figure. After 24 hours the milliput is set, and you can then start sort of doing the fine tuning on it. And I've just used some needle files and a nail file to do the final bit of shaping. So you can see there, that's his nose, which is looking pretty good. And then I've also done the little square toes on his feet there, which I'm really pretty happy with. The final thing to do is to colour this so that it matches the rest of his body. I'm going to try the Sharpie again, see if that works. I have a feeling it may not do particularly well on top of the milliput, and we may end up sort of painting it, but it's worth a try to start with. So let's try the Sharpie, see what that looks like. And if it doesn't work, I'll get some other paints out. Yeah, that's not great. It's gone very grey. I sort of had a feeling it might do that. So I'm going to go and get some other acrylic paints out and see if I can mix up a silver that matches this, and then we'll do all of the touch-ups and get it looking as good as we possibly can. And there we go, the paint has worked much better. I've got a pretty close match there. His nose is certainly looking really nice, and that was just a mix of black and white. So these are Vallejo model colours. I've mixed a little bit of black and white to make a grey, and then into that I've mixed some of this game colour, which is silver, 72.052, and that's given me a pretty close match. His feet, the match is not quite so perfect because the silver on there has actually gone a bit sort of brown, but you know, it's close enough, and I've not actually touched up any of the other scuffs on his feet. I've left them a little bit sort of rough and ready to give it that sort of wabby sabby look. But overall the figure is looking really nice, and it's certainly good enough to go on display here with the rest of my collection. And I'm really pleased about getting this figure because this one has the blood action that works in the stomach, and that's a really nice little feature. And there we go, that is it for this project. I've now ended up with 3 figures that can go on display, and they are all looking really nice, and they've all got very interesting issues that I've never sort of dealt with before. The brittle plastic is going to be something that you'll see more and more in toys as they get older and older. These things were not designed to last as long as they have, so the plastics used do tend to degrade in different ways, and it seems that the green plastic on that one and the blue plastic on that one are getting very brittle, and there are lots of toys with that very issue, so you just have to be that extra bit careful with them. But as you can see, I managed to get Spikor all back together. He's looking really nice. I do actually have a weapon for him. Old Mosquito in the middle is looking very nice. I'm very pleased with how his nose has turned out. I do need to still find his weapon, and then finally we have Dragstor on the left, who is also looking pretty good, and I'm very pleased that I now actually have the engine block to go on the back of him. So there we go, that is it for this project, turning what was a pile of broken figures into 3 very nice displayable figures. If you've enjoyed this video, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the bell to be notified each time I upload a new video. And if you've really enjoyed it and want to help out toy-polloi, then why not think about becoming a Patreon or YouTube channel member. You get early access to all of my restoration videos, plus access to an exclusive video series called On the Cutting Mat. So have a think about that, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching toy-polloi. Subscribe for more great videos.